What is up, everybody? So this is going to be a review of Wednesday's trading session with the Apteros Intensive, where Merritt Black trades live. So if you've not watched the first video, go watch that. This is the second video in the lineup. Or I might just put all these together. I don't know yet. But anyways, here's my P&L for the morning session. I did take some trades in the afternoon, so, we got up a little bit higher. But for the sake of trading with Merritt and trying to trade around his levels, but not really take his trades when he takes his trades, I'm taking trades based off my system. Most importantly, not necessarily what he's doing. And I don't have a video for Monday because I missed that session, but as you can see, that's a lot of trades for just $600. This was the worst open I've seen in a very long time. The volatility was fucking horrible. And I was getting in the setups that for me had really good probability. They just weren't really working. And when the volatility is bad, it's kind of best to just, in my opinion, be tight like this. Unless the setup is super high probability, which I didn't have any high probability setups. So let's kind of look at Merritt's setups, my setups, what I would have wanted to see, and what he was looking for. So this is an overnight profile. He's looking for a pullback to the 2450, which we never got. Then this 41 even he was looking at, which he did trade in this section. It wasn't moving. You can see most of the day the market was dead. And then near the end, it kind of blew out right there. Then he took that trade in later in the afternoon, which he wasn't streaming because he streams the first part of the day. So that's kind of where he's looking. So we're going to look at his levels on my chart. I'm going to explain what I wanted to see. So for me, here's his levels. This green area is where he was looking for a pullback. Or this dotted pink line or higher up. For me personally, we'll make this smaller. The overnight sort of took out what I was originally looking for. So here's the RTH yesterday. I would have loved to be getting long in this 0807, which I know Merritt had as a major level, but obviously the overnight just went up. It went up quite a bit, actually. You can see here's the overnight profile. And then we just opened up near the fucking high, never getting a pullback. For me, there was such a really good long in this section to hold for a good while. Sometimes these overnight sessions just take these good setups away from you. So for me, there was really nothing. So going in the session for me, there's like, well, in this section, I could be considered trading in this section. Because of the way this profile sort of tapers, but then it gets all wackadoodled in here. It looks really goofy structurally. So for me, what I want to do is wait for the open, see how the price is bouncing, see what it's failing at getting through, just like rotations. Because for me, like, if the market just goes one direction, I really have no edge in that. For me, when the market is bouncing and chopping, I love that because it's like a cake baking in the oven, and I have a lot more edge in that type of environment. But obviously the volatility needs to be there, and it was not. So let's look at the open. Guys, if you're interested in NADRO, you no longer have to use a coupon code through my channel. You can go to a specific landing page, link in the description, to save $445 on the NADRO course. It originally goes for $2,995. Go to my, I have a landing page. This is what it looks like. Ryan made it just for me and for this community, and I want to let you guys know that they are very specific with who they work with. I am their only affiliate partner as of date. They've turned down a lot of people, so they're not just trying to work with anybody. They don't want to just shove this stuff down people's throat. They're looking for specific clients, specific types of traders. And, well, the way I see it is my channel has very long technical videos, so it tends to filter out most traders that aren't really serious about this stuff. So I think it's nice that he made an exclusive landing page for me, and I'm their only guy on the outside, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, here's the savings on the NADRO standalone in the center. Or you can buy the NADRO with 5 intensives. That's a lot of case studies, by the way. That's a shitload of case studies to kind of help you learn more about NADRO, see it in different market environments. They don't sell the intensives on the normal Apteros page. Only through this landing page can you get prior intensives, or you can get the last two over here on the left as well, which I got a duck. But anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Back to the video. Actually, I do want to mention before we do look at the open, so ideally, I would have loved to have gotten short and rode the short back to the this pink line, which is, you know, about 24.50. This is where Merritt's getting long. Ideally, he's looking for a place there. I could be misreading what he was looking for. I'm not, so I just need to disclaim this. Like, I'm not, the way he's finding his levels and stuff, I don't do that because, again, I have my own system. But it's interesting to be trading along with him and seeing how he like in the last video, he's sort of seeing, you know, we're looking at some of the same trade locations, which actually happened again today. But also what's interesting is yesterday he had a level at 84, and I kind of overheld my trade and it came back, and that would have actually been a great scale out. So this is interesting nonetheless. But ideally, if I could have got a short, I would have loved it. But at the same time, for me, there's a good chance that the price needs to keep running up. So for me, there really wasn't anything all that great today at all. Nothing juicy. And Merritt also mentioned that his higher time frames, there's a lot of resistance in this area. So he was kind of ranking trading up in this location as a C trade, and then it ended up getting bumped up to a B. So he wanted the pullback. It never fully pulled back, and much like me, he didn't do all that great either, and it's not there. The setups aren't there for either of us. So what can you do? What can you do? But anyways, let's kind of look at the open, which is about right here. Oops. Let me adjust this. So it's roughly in here. So again, I kind of anchor VWAP a little differently. Like I anchor my VWAPs, where Merritt uses a fixed VWAP. So definitely different in that regard. But if you go through the NADRO course, he does talk about take it and make it your own. Again, my trading is very unique, but there is little essence of NADRO in my trading. As well as all the other material I've gone through. So here's the open. It was brutally tight. Like the ranging and the volume and everything just was like super duper tight. Piss poor lows. Merritt was looking for a puke in this section. So was I. You know, and then we put in I had kind of dicked around in some of these areas. Again, the trades were just like nothing. So I don't think they're worth looking at in the recording. They really attempted to run it up here. Then they started to cycle it back down, obviously. And the profile started to expand out. If I'm not mistaken, I think I caught a nice short in this section, but it wasn't like I pulled it relatively early. Because at this point, I figured they were going to stop run this section. Interestingly enough, Merritt grabbed along here, which I wanted to do. But I wasn't. I was thinking about longing it down here, which he did. I believe he took some small scales there. And it's interesting because he's sort of scalping positions. Well, he is scalping positions. Much like I am currently. And my personal reasoning is it's just there's nothing there. There's no reason to be holding. So I imagine that's sort of what he's experiencing as well. So the fact that we both didn't have these super aligned setups that are just primed up and ready to go. It's interesting to see that what I'm doing, he's doing. So that kind of gives me confidence that I'm on, well, it does give me confidence that I'm on the right track as far as like how I should be managing specific trades. So the reason I didn't want to hit that long was because of this top ticking. And these lows were so piss poor. And ultimately, I think there's a good chance it could have pulled down to here. Again, Merritt's looking at that exact same area. I wouldn't want to long off that because of how high noted this is personally. But I would have loved to trade into it. But I wouldn't want to trade into it because this specific area on a higher time frame chart had so many failures that I think the market needs to puke and just continue to run up. And I feel as though the market needed to continue going up a lot higher and then start rotating back in before I would have been cool with actually taking a short in that section or any of this section. Now, I would have been interested. If I'm not mistaken, I actually took a nap because I was super tired. Because at some point he called it. I was like, this is shit. Yeah, I mean, it just because of this top ticking, and most of the mean is right here. Well, I mean, what he did there was great. But for me, I just felt there might be a bit of more of a flush. I just felt there might be a little bit more of a flush. But it was pausing and stalling there. I'm like, this actually looks good. And then he took it. So now, if some of you recall the previous video, he made a mistake. His goal was not to fuck up again, and according to him, his trading was super on point, but we just didn't have volatility or follow through, which that's gonna happen. So you're not making a fucking great trade off of any of this. It's so fucked up. Like, that environment is so fucked up that you can't, it's not moving. So what can you do? So, you know, the fucker drifts down. I think I'd stepped out at that point. He did as well, as somewhere's around this section or what have you. I don't remember. It just was, nothing was happening. Then obviously it starts rotating back in. Now I did take a nice, what was it? A nice short, I believe, right here. And I just wrote it to this side of this, from this low node to this low node. And then I attempted to grab, oops, I actually moved that level. Well, it's no longer important. I attempted to grab a long in one of these sections here. I believe it was this one, and I didn't get filled. It didn't, when it came in, the market rotated up, and it didn't even, like, it stayed on the spread. It didn't have any slight back ticking, which that's really crazy because you don't really see that. But for me, it was hard to get fills because I work primarily limit orders. So I just missed that. And I would have ended up taking it off at that section, but that would have been a nice trade. Just, I missed it. So that's pretty much the extent of the session for me. Now, I know Merritt was getting into pullbacks up here, which obviously didn't yield much, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really like to trade into the close like that. But just overall, an atrocious open. Also, it's the end of the quarter. So according to them, they're not going to do these intensives during the end of a quarter, because this is my third one. And the other ones I've watched have been relatively action-packed. Unfortunately, this week has just been, it's not that great. But we got 2 more days. Even me, I ain't hitting no knockout shit at all. But we have 2 more days. So I imagine something will happen. Anyways, hope you liked that video. Sorry, it wasn't that interesting, but it needed to be done. And I will see you guys in the next one.